Hello, welcome back. This is Words and Other Good Ideas, coming to you with a new video on The Traitor's story by Kevin Wignall. And this is a video for my series Amazon's Best Book. So this book was the bestseller on Amazon for last month, the month of June. Kevin Wignall is apparently quite well known for his crime/thriller novels. He's got quite a few already published, but this one was obviously just published quite recently. And I've not read any of his other works before, so it was a real blank slate for me. Also because it's not the genre that I typically go for. So I was quite excited to read this book when I saw that it was best-selling, and I was like, oh yeah, I get to read it and review, and then sort of experience a whole new world. And then I had a whole Aladdin thing going on. And then all of my dreams were crushed when it arrived, and I just felt boredom in my hands, and I just thought, oh, I just don't want to read this book. I mean, the first thing that I noticed about this book was that there's a really suspicious lack of, 10 out of 10 from The Observer written on the front cover. And I mean, if even The Observer isn't giving you a 10 out of 10 for you to quote on your book, then you've obviously got some sort of a problem. The blurb explains this book as being a story following a rumoured former spy, and a teenage girl sort of disappears from his apartment building, and it sort of makes him delve back into his past, and he tries to find her, and he also tries to solve some old mysteries. It could be really exciting and action-packed and fast-paced. There are moments of that in the text, but I thought the majority of it was really quite slow. Surprisingly slow. I mean, I don't even know how Kevin Wignall managed to make it so slow, considering what the plot is. Basically, the book switches between the past and the present, and the chapters that are taking place in the past are headed history, which actually was really helpful. Thank you for that. So in the present, Finn, the protagonist, is living in an apartment block, and a girl from his apartment block goes missing. And so his present storyline is him going and finding her, sort of figuring out her disappearance. And his past storyline involves his life as he was leaving the sort of the government sector. He was a sort of spy in the government sector, so he's sort of just coming out of that career and moving into sort of casual civilian life. So as I say, this plot is kind of a brilliant concept. I mean, it's done really well. Interwoven timelines are quite difficult to get right, and that aspect of this book is done really well. The problem that I have is that the decisions that Finn makes are quite often based on instinct and rumour, and even though in the book at many points he says my instincts are fallible, he never really seems to make a mistake, and that's just implausible, I think, and it really chimes discordantly as I was reading. Another problem that I had with this book is the sort of questionable nature of the government agencies. Now, this isn't set in a country like the UK, whose government system I know relatively well. I can't be sure of the validity of my response to some of the events in this book. Finn sort of goes a little bit rogue and acts in his own interests and independently of the interests of the company, the government body that he works for, and they don't react in a hugely negative way. There are also some moments of extreme action, extreme violent action, for which Finn sort of receives almost condonement rather than the stern sort of reprimanding that one would expect from someone who was no longer a government agent and wouldn't have the license to do that type of thing. So I thought that sort of, again, didn't really ring quite true. The main problem, though, that I had with this book was the character of Finn himself. This is a character which is this really odd mix between vigilante and self-serving, callous person. He makes decisions which, because of this strange mix, it's really difficult to sort of understand his thought process, because if he were either one, a vigilante or a sort of callous bastard, excuse my French, if he went drastically in either direction, then you could get some sense of logical understanding of the character. But because he sort of manages to intersect between these two extremes, so you never really know where he's coming from, and his actions just don't really make much sense. You don't know what's gonna prod him into emotion or anger or anything like that. So I just found his character to be really fundamentally unlikable, but also confusing and not very realistic, to be honest. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was excited to try something new, but it just wasn't for me in any respect. Some aspects of the writing were good, technically speaking, but the character creation, the sort of human response, I felt to be a bit lacking. Almost all of the reviews, the positive reviews that I read, they didn't give any reason for being positive except for Kevin Wignall's done it again. And so that makes me think maybe that his previous books have been better, but I'm not sure, and I don't really want to read any of them. So if you like crime or thriller, or books that are sort of politics based, then I mean, you might like it. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I know that part of my not liking this book is because it's just not really in my zone of this is what I want to read. So some of you might like it, but I just didn't. So I'm not really recommending this one for any of you. I think I'm going to have to give it a 3.5 out of 10. And I feel really bad for doing that because someone has tried really hard on this book. Oh well. 3.5 out of 10. I'm very sorry, but that is my honest opinion. I feel like this one might spark some comments, so do leave me a message me on Twitter, like, share and subscribe. There will be more videos coming up soon. I just had to mention at the end of this video, the thing that most annoyed me about this book was how the cover was put together, the material that was used. If you just look, I've had to, for this video, I've had to like put some hair clips in to stop the cover doing what it's about to do. Look at that. Look at that. I'm not even touching it. I've read this book once. I've had it for like 3 days and it's already been peeling, and it's because it's got this weird sort of plastic that you can see just coming off, just peeling off there. I've only read it once. I mean, for God's sake, I know it's a paperback, but construct your books with a bit of integrity, please. I mean, come on. How hard is it?